Hello, 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 and welcome to Bold Strokes Books Must Reads. Now, what must you be reading, you might ask? Well, this is a new and exciting online marketing from BSB, where we are having one author, one book, one fantastic reading for you in these little mini interview style videos. So I would like to welcome Kris Bryant.
Hello.
Who needs no introduction.
I'll take it.
And Kris, your new release is Serendipity.
It is.
Which I have a little story about Serendipity, actually.
Oh,
You
okay.
almost lost out on this title by like a half an hour.
Nice.
That close.
Nice. Wow. Yeah. I mean, my one-word title. Like,
yeah, your email hit my inbox about a half an hour earlier than somebody else who wanted the same title, just that one word.
Yes, I love it.
You know, so special title. Awesome. So why don't you tell readers a little bit about yourself, just in case they haven't met you yet. Okay. A little bit about your book, and then you can launch into your reading whenever you're ready.
I'm Kris Bryant, and I write contemporary romance for Bold Strokes Books. And Serendipity is, I think, my 16th or 17th book, maybe even 18th, I'm not quite sure. But it is a book of, it's third person, which is not normally what I write. I usually write first person, but this is a third person story between an international music star, Bristol Baines, and she has been in the industry for half her life. She is in her late 20s, so she started when she was a teen. And also through Annie Foster is an up-and-coming musician. She's more of an online presence than she is a concert star. And she just does kind of local, her friend has a coffee shop and she does like local concerts, and she does an online show for up-and-coming musicians called Chords and Coffee, or Coffee and Chords. And so basically the story is Bristol is down to her last 6 weeks of the concert tour, and her opening act has to leave for a medical emergency. So she needs to find somebody to actually finish out the tour. And they find Annie in Denver, that's where she lives. And so she had such a success for the 2 shows that she did in Denver that they invite her on the road. And so it's the story of a rising musician and one that really wants to get out of the business. So I'm going to start the story. What I'm going to read is I'm going to read a point of view from Bristol, and then I'm going to switch to Annie. And this scene is that they are on the tour bus, one of the tour buses, and Bristol has just said goodbye to her family. They did a concert in LA, and so I'm going to start it for their, it's like 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right after the show and after she's met with her family. So there's the high of being happy and being around love and family. And so she's in a good mood. And she asks Annie to stay on the bus with her as they go to their next destination. "Grab your guitar and let's see what you're doing," Bristol said. She noticed, but Annie's hesitations were so slight that they didn't bother her like some guitarists did. She watched Annie as she carefully opened her case and pulled out her guitar. "It's not top of the line or anything, but I've been playing her for so long I can't retire her," she said. The guitar had seen better days, but still had a beautiful sound. "How long have you had her?" "About 8 years. It was the first major purchase of my life. Who needs a car when you can have a beautiful guitar like this?" "Wait, you don't have a car?" The sound of Annie's laughter made Bristol's stomach quiver. "I have a car, but she definitely costs less than the guitar." "Whatever it takes, I think you're doing great," Bristol said. She admired Annie for going about things differently than she did. Annie blushed. "Thank you." Bristol liked how she didn't try to compare their levels of success, that this was different between a fan and a friend. "Now play something." She leaned forward to watch Annie's hands. After several minutes and a few suggestions, Annie was able to improve. I can't believe this. I've been playing forever and you improved me in 10 minutes, Annie said. Don't take it personally. Remember, I was taking piano, guitar, and voice lessons for years before I ever cut an album. I practiced every day for hours with overpaid music teachers. Hey, let me grab my guitar, Bristol said. She returned with her Preston Thompson acoustic. Since we're sharing our babies, here's mine. She handed it to Annie. Oh my gosh. Annie leaned the neck of her guitar against the table and stood to wrap the strap of Bristol's around her neck. She's gorgeous. She ran her hand over the smooth rosewood neck and body. How many guitars do you have? I don't think I've ever seen this one before. On this tour, I have 6, but she stays on the bus. Bristol leaned closer to Annie. I don't trust her with anyone. Annie was so close and her breath a mere whispered. She widened her eyes playfully. But you trust me? Bristol nodded slowly. I do. Can I play your guitar? Why, Miss Foster, that's such a personal question. May I? Of course, Bristol said. Her face got really close to Annie's as she maneuvered around her to sit. Play me something. Annie thought for a moment and strummed chords until she got comfortable. She's so smooth. I love her. Don't forget what you just learned, Bristol said. She smiled when Annie closed her eyes to concentrate. She was flawless. Her skin was smooth. Slight laugh lines at the corner of her eyes became more pronounced when she smiled as she felt her way across the strings. Bristol wanted to kiss her. When Annie opened her eyes and started singing, Bristol caught herself leaning closer and made herself sit back. Annie was giving her a mini concert. When she finished the song, Bristol applauded. You have such a clear voice. It's so impressive. Annie touched Bristol's arm. And I would kill for yours. It's so sexy and your range is incredible. So together we sing perfectly, Bristol said. The fans think so. The messages Dom weeds through daily are amazing. They want us to sing more. She picked up Annie's guitar, and for the next hour, they played several random songs. It was the best time Bristol had ever had on the tour. It's 5:30 in the morning. We need to get some rest, Annie said after noticing the time. Bristol wasn't ready to say goodnight, even though she knew that they both needed sleep. Let's drop a teaser on social media. She picked up her phone and hit the camera button. Is the picture okay? Yeah, totally. Annie moved closer to Bristol to fill in the frame. That's fine. We're holding each other's guitars. That should generate talk, Bristol said. She tried not to smile so hard, but she was happy. Snap. They took one photo that looked like 2 friends playing guitars. Bristol swallowed hard when Annie rested her head against her shoulder. Snap. It was precious, and Bristol's heart sped at feeling any part of Annie press up against hers. She turned to look at Annie, and they laughed. Snap. Bristol felt like they were in a photo booth. On a whim, she kissed Annie's cheek. Snap. When Annie felt Bristol's warm lips against her cheek, she almost melted. If the phone wasn't in Bristol's hand, Annie would have turned her head and kissed Bristol on the mouth. But Annie wasn't sure making a move was the best thing. Plus, this was Bristol Baines, international superstar, and Annie didn't want to fuck things up. No, if Bristol was interested, she would have to make the first move. Was that okay? Bristol asked. Annie pretended she didn't know what Bristol meant, even though her cheek still throbbed from where Bristol's lips had brushed it. It was fine. Bristol handed her the phone. Scroll through and let me know which ones you're okay with me posting. Annie felt weak with Bristol so close to her. She stifled a shiver when Bristol's long hair brushed her arm. I think they're all great. She took a deep breath, knowing she was about to cross a line between them. We look good together. Her voice was low, and when she turned to face Bristol, Bristol was staring at her mouth. I'll post them. Give them something to talk about. Come on, let's get you to bed, Bristol said. They both blushed at her innuendo. I'll post them all. Give them something to talk. Oh, sorry. So that. Probably a good idea, Annie said. It wasn't that she wasn't confident around women. She just never knew when to make the first move. Tonight wasn't the night she would try her luck. And 5:30 in the morning didn't seem like the best idea either. You can leave your guitar here in the closet. Nobody will mess with her. Bristol hid a yawn behind her hand. You can use the tiny bathroom here, or you can use my bathroom. I'll use this one here. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a fun day and night, and also well morning, Annie said. Bristol pulled her in a soft hug. Sleep well. Annie felt Bristol's lip on her cheek again and held back a soft moan. Bristol pulled back. Let me know if you need anything. You sleep well too, Annie said. She waited until Bristol closed the door to the back of the bus and leaned against the bunk. What was wrong with her? Obviously, there was something between them, so why wasn't she acting on it? She softly banged her head against the mattress before digging out a t-shirt and pajama shorts for bed. Why was she so scared? If she made a move and Bristol shot her down, she would only have to feel horribly awkward for like 10 days. She grabbed her toiletries and opened the door to the bathroom that was rivaled the size of one on an airplane. It took her a good 5 minutes to get ready, and by the time she picked a bunk, the sliver of light that peeked out from Bristol's door had gone dark. Fuck. Way to go, Annie. She pulled the cool sheet over her and pouted. What should she have done? She wanted to call her sister for advice, but she knew Sarah was busy getting the day started. Plus, she didn't want to wake Bristol. She started a breathing exercise to help her relax, and right before sleep took her, she heard Bristol's door open and saw soft light spill into the aisle. Through the bottom of the privacy curtain, she saw Bristol stop in front of the bunks. She rolled on her side and slid the curtain back. Are you okay? Bristol jumped and put her hand on her heart. Annie would have laughed at the startled look on Bristol's face, but the second her eyes landed on what Bristol was wearing to bed, she swallowed hard. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you were good. You surprised me. I thought you'd be on the lower bunk. This way, I'm actually taller than you. I'm good though. Thank you for checking on me. Why was Bristol here? Ideas, nice flirty ideas, popped into her head. I feel like we weren't finished with things, Bristol said. Annie leaned forward. Oh? She watched Bristol take a step closer. It was such a good night, and I ended it too abruptly. It was as if a lightning bolt struck her right in her heart. Bristol wanted to kiss her. She was standing in front of Annie wearing a tank top and a pair of boy shorts, looking vulnerable and nervous as fuck. Annie threw caution aside and crooked her finger at Bristol. She brushed her lips softly across hers. Does this help? Bristol nodded and stood on her tippy toes to get closer. This helps a lot.
Oh, I love it. That's so sweet.
It's a slow burn romance.
It gives you all the feels. And I think some of your books are definitely slow burns, but some of them aren't too.
Right. This one is, so be prepared.
For sure. And I think this one has a sweetness that I think really comes through and was really exemplified in your reading just now too. Like both characters are just like really nice people. You like them both, you want them to be together. You don't, rip our hearts out and stomp on them or anything like that. So not high angst. Right. Some of us, may feel awkward for about 10 days, but it's a risk worth taking.
I for sure would feel awkward, but no, they, it's certainly not the drugs and rock and roll and hard alcohol through, what you see or what you have read in previous books or seen in movies. It's not like that at all. It's somebody who has lived this life for so long and she just wants out, versus somebody who's up and coming and they're just so real with each other, and it's nice starting a relationship when it starts on truth, and this starts on a truth. And so that's why they're able to slip into a relationship quickly, and it feels very honest and very raw. And it was just fun to write that relationship. I normally don't have that much rawness and emotions with people who are getting together in my books, but for some reason they just came through as very sincere people.
Yeah, for sure. Was that a choice that you made intentionally to kind of show that side of these characters in that industry as opposed to the harder, kind of more drugs and alcohol and whatnot and bad behavior side of the industry? Did you make a particular choice to keep it sweet?
I didn't really. When I thought about the storyline, I thought I've always loved music and concerts, and when I was growing up, the only rich people I knew of were either musicians or movie stars. And so I thought, well, I have more knowledge of music than I do movies. So I thought, how cool would it be to write about somebody who has lived half of her life, if not longer, in a industry that has swallowed her up, and she has forgotten who she is, even though it's been her dream her whole life. So how do you handle that as a person when you've wanted this your whole life, and then you finally have it and it's not what you want? You have all the money in the world, but you can't go anywhere. You can't leave your house without being, just mobbed. And what would that really be like? I mean, having all the money in the world and having everything at your disposal is great, but if you can't live your life, I mean, what good is it? And then you have another person who Annie, I just fell in love with Annie myself. I mean, just her sweetness, and she's there to help people all the time. She has a great supporting family. Like her sister is really great. And this is like everyday, she's just an everyday person, and just something really good and amazing happens to her. And when you're a good person, something really amazing happens to you, more amazing things happen. So it was so easy to write their relationship and just keep it, like I said, keep it smooth and soft, and just keep it truthful.
Yeah, for sure. I love what you said about kind of Annie being an everyday type person, because one of the things that I love so much about this book is that you have this kind of larger than life setting with this pop star and in this kind of music scene that for most readers, and perhaps in the hands of another author, would be kind of larger than life, right? Like something that an everyday person doesn't get to experience. But the conflict that they have, where they're both kind of just at different places in their lives, is so real, I think, to everyday people, right? Like, I think that's something that we can all connect to. Is that something that you did intentionally to kind of like pair a larger than life context with kind of a really relatable conflict, or was it just kind of coincidence that it turned out that way?
I think it was kind of both, a little bit of a coincidence, but I wanted at least one of the characters to be relatable. And you have to think that people who are so successful, but really have never lived life, because Bristol got into the business in her early teens. And she never had prom. She never had anything like that. She didn't have the normal life that most people that we have had. We went to high school, we went to college, we go to the coffee shop, on Sunday mornings or whatever. And what would it be like to be somebody who just wants that and can't have it, and just, I can't imagine that rock and roll or pop or whatever is that aggressive. There has to be people that have come up fast, quickly, but don't let it take advantage of them, or don't let them get swallowed up by that whole, pressure of being a rock star and having to perform all the time and be a certain way. And I just feel like I think there are some musicians that we relate to. Like, I know that I would totally be friends with Adele. I know if we were like sitting on a train somewhere, like we would totally hit it off. And I think people do that. I think that there are some people like, oh, Taylor Swift and I would get along so great, or Ariana Grande and I would hang out and whatever. And I feel that as readers and listeners of music, we find those musicians and we just feel like that we would be best friends, or we could relate very well to them. And so I just wanted to bring that into the story as well, so that it would bring you into it, and so you could relate more to Bristol, and then know that you're more like Annie coming into something like that. And how incredible would it be to meet somebody that famous and that important to the social growth of the world.
Yeah. And to have them treat you like a friend, like in your reading. I mean, that never happens.
I know. I need to find some famous people.
I know,
I need
seriously.
Adele to call me up, because I think we would be really good friends.
You need to get on the same train as Adele.
Right.
Life goal. Okay, so you talked a bit about, like, in your writing process, thinking about what would it be like if. So my next question is kind of like the flip of that. What did you draw on in yourself in this book? Like, what is there, like a theme or a moment in the book where you're like, oh, and you don't have to say, like what, your experience is, or, any kind of details about your life. But I always love it when authors, put little parts of themselves, maybe something that's happened to them or something that they've experienced, into a book, so that we get to see just a little part of the writer too.
There's a little bit, I'm probably more, there's a little bit of me and Annie, I think, just because it's my life as far as, I'm just every day go to the coffee shop, and play guitar. I
Your
know.
name is Kris Bryant.
Oh, I know.
One day I'm going to sit next to you on a train.
Please do. And I also put, one thing I think about, because I do have pets, is like, what happens to pets when a lot of stars go on tour? What do they do? Do they have pet sitters? Do they take their animals with them? And so Raven, there's a cat in this story. Annie's cat is Raven Elizabeth, and that is actually my cat. That was my cat when I was a young adult up until mid 30s, which is like yesterday. But of course. And, she's saying goodbye to the cat for 6 weeks, and she's like so concerned about it. And then she's thinking, what do people do with their animals? Because that is a big concern for me. Like, I have to make sure that I have care for Molly, if I go to an event. And, so I mean, just like taking care of your pets for a long extended amount of time, what do you do? And so Raven she shows up a lot in this book. And it's kind of funny because my cat was an asshole. I mean, just like Raven is in this book, she loves maybe 2 people and eventually a third. So just a lot of just being on it, a lot of honesty and a lot of things about the animals. I put that is of myself. I put that into the book, as far as experiences and things like that. No, I don't have any of that, but I certainly have a great imagination, and I would love to experience something like this. I think that would be great.
For sure. All right. So last question, tell us where readers can find you if they want to look you up on the socials. Where are you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, I probably spend most of my time on Twitter, and I'm at Kris Bryant 2014. I also do like Queerly Recommended. I have a podcast, queerlyrecommended.com. And I'm on Insta as well, but I don't really post a lot. I should post more. But I think that's Kris_Bryant14, and then Facebook.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kris Bryant. Please do check out Serendipity. It is available on the Bold Strokes Books website, and will be available September 13th everywhere books are sold.
Yay!
Thanks so much, Kris.
Thank you so much.